everyone, I'm Mariana and it's monthly wrap-up time again. In this video, I'll be telling you about everything that I've read in June, which was actually a really good reading month for me. And then tomorrow, we'll talk about everything that I watched last month. So I've read a total of 6 books in June, 2 of which were 5-star reads that just blew me away. And if you've been watching my channel for a while, you know I don't hand out those 5-star ratings left and right. The first one of these, which is also the first book I finished in June, is Lolita by Vladimir Nabokov. This is a very famous and a very controversial novel that used to be banned in multiple countries. I'm sure you already know that the protagonist and the narrator of this is a middle-aged man who is obsessed with a 12-year-old girl. First of all, this is some of the most exquisite and masterful writing I have ever read in my entire life. The way Nabokov uses language is just unlike anything else. I can't even find the right words to describe it, and this is just something that has to be experienced. After finishing this book, I immediately added a bunch of his books to my to-read list because I clearly need more of his writing in my life. The story is obviously very disturbing and the main character is just appalling, but being inside his head is actually oddly fascinating. This is essentially a very interesting moral and psychological exploration of this really messed up character who keeps finding new ways to justify himself. It feels really weird to say that I loved this book for obvious reasons, but I did, and this was a very easy 5 out of 5 rating for me. And the way I see it, Lolita is a must-read. Next up, I finished My Cousin Rachel by Daphne du Maurier, which I specifically wanted to read before watching the movie that came out in June, and I did end up seeing the movie. I will talk about it in my wrap-up tomorrow, but this is a very atmospheric mystery that really plays with the idea of how one person's actions can be seen from different perspectives. The main character, Philip, starts off hating this woman, Rachel, just based on his ideas about her without ever meeting her, and he is blaming her for the death of his older cousin. However, once he actually meets Rachel, his perception of her starts changing, and the entire book is this did she or didn't she thing with a lot of melodrama sprinkled in a good way. This was a solid 4 out of 5 read for me. It didn't quite have enough power to blow my mind, but it's really well written and it kept me engaged the entire time, and now I'm really looking forward to reading Rebecca next. Then I read Borne by Jeff Vandermeer. I've been wanting to read his Southern Reach trilogy for some time now, but I've heard some mixed things about his writing style, so this short standalone novel seemed like the perfect thing to try. And also, I was fascinated by this thing on the cover, which is actually the creature called Borne. This is a post-apocalyptic story in which the main character, Rachel, finds this creature in the fur of a Godzilla-sized bear. She names it Borne, she takes it home, and she kind of raises it as if it's her kid. And yes, there is a Godzilla-sized, genetically modified bear in this novel. His name is Mord. He terrorizes everybody and he can levitate. How could I not like this book? I really enjoyed Jeff Vandermeer's writing style, so I'm definitely looking forward to checking out the Southern Reach trilogy soon. As far as Borne goes, I thought this was a really good post-apocalyptic story. I loved the premise. Obviously, the levitating giant bear was just fascinating to me. I thought this was quite different because it's not your regular post-apocalyptic survival action type of thing, though there is some of that in there, but that's not really the point of the book. It's more about the relationship between humans and nature, and there's some sort of weird coming-of-age thing going on here. There were some pacing problems in the middle, and I wished the book was longer so the author could really get into the characters and the themes, so because of this I ended up giving it 4 out of 5. But overall, it's a wonderful and unique quick read. After that, I finally finished the Harry Potter series by reading Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows, and this was a great ending to a great series. In my experience, it's a pretty rare occasion to find a final book in the series that is actually satisfying, and this one absolutely was. So I am pretty impressed by that. I don't really think I need to say much about this book because this is a very beloved series and it seems like I'm one of the last people in the world to read it, and everybody knows this is a great series, so I'm not going to be telling you anything new. But all I have to say is that any nitpicks that I might have had with this book can be put aside because this was a pretty epic way to end the entire thing. So I ended up giving it 4.5 out of 5 stars, and since a lot of you have been asking, I will make some sort of video about my experience reading the entire series soon. Then I read my second 5 out of 5 book of June, The Road by Cormac McCarthy. This was rough in the best way possible. I was in the mood after finishing this book, and if you've read it, I'm sure you know why. I'm not trying to spoil anything, it's just the entire thing is very kind of dark and bleak. This is a story of a father and his son who are traveling to the coast in a very gray and bleak post-apocalyptic America. It's kind of a slice of life type of story because really not much happens in this book. It's one of those things when you just observe their daily life, you see how they deal with problems that come up, you see how they keep each other going, and that type of storytelling can actually be hit or miss for me because often it just doesn't hold my attention, but The Road definitely did. This novel is interesting enough on the surface level, just as a character study in this brutal post-apocalyptic world. Watching these two people go about their day-to-day life and try to survive and battle the elements and whatever else they encounter, all of that is already interesting to read about. However, this is filled with symbolism that will keep you thinking for days. This whole book is an allegory of life and of the human experience. There is tons of religious symbolism. There is representation of good and evil, not being able to let go of the past, fear of making wrong choices. There is so much to this novel under the surface, and I love that kind of thing. The Road was just brilliant. And the last book I read in June is Normal by Warren Ellis, which was sadly my least favorite of them all. However, this isn't to say that it's a bad book. This is actually a pretty enjoyable and a pretty interesting speculative fiction novella. I just think it could have been done better. The near future setting is actually very interesting. There are these people whose job it is to look into the future and analyze it, but because they know that the world is just doomed, a lot of them end up with severe mental problems. So this novella is set at a recovery center for those people, which sounds like an interesting story, and I think it could have been a fascinating story. However, partly because it's so short, this is what, 148 pages, it really doesn't get into any of it all that much, and it really doesn't have anything new and interesting to say as far as our over-reliance on technology goes, and there is a bit of a missed opportunity here to explore the mental illness angle. So I ended up giving it 3 out of 5 stars. It's enjoyable, it's fast-paced, but it really didn't do much for me. That's it for my June reading wrap-up. Let me know if you guys have read any of these books and what did you think of them. Thank you so much for watching. As always, I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, please don't forget to give it a thumbs up, share it, and subscribe to my channel if you haven't yet. I hope you're having a wonderful day, and I will see you tomorrow in my next video. Bye!